Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I'm your host, the voice of reason. So, in today's coverage of the ongoing civil war that is taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia, the fighting continues. We are receiving continued reports of Tigrayan Defense Forces making advances into the Amhara region. Furthermore, we have heard or actually received confirmation that a fairly significant battlefield commander of the Ethiopian army was captured. This individual holds the rank of a colonel, and he is now heading to a prisoner of war camp inside of the Tigray region to be debriefed on events that are continuing to occur inside of the Amhara region in terms of the military aspects of what's occurring. We can also say that equipment has been captured, more equipment has been captured by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. There's been further more video evidence released of the equipment that has been captured by the TDF. In this case, it was a multiple launch rocket system. Again, that was captured. But again, the fighting, as reported from yesterday, continues. I wanted to touch on the nature of this conflict a little bit and talk about the significance of the nature of this conflict, because we understand it is both a conventional war now and it is a unconventional war. So we are seeing I guess you could say the best and worst sides of a conflict. And again, when you have a conflict such as this that has aspects of a conventional war and has aspects of an industrial strength insurgency, the like of which is going on both in the north and in the Oromia region, it is significant and is causing the destruction of the state of Ethiopia, or really has caused the destruction of the state of Ethiopia. And furthermore, it's the ideology that is driving the conflict. And this is very, very important in terms of when persons ask, well, why can't there be a political solution to the conflict? Why is there not negotiations? Why are not people talking? And I wanted to give you an example on why that is not occurring. And a fairly significant ally of Abiy Ahmed, who is very rapidly becoming the despotic leader of quite possibly an undemocratic state that mirrors what you get in Eritrea. But again, this comment, these statements that were made really tells you why that neither side is now unable to talk, communicate, resolve differences. So Abiy Ahmed has a political ally, and his name is Daniel Kybret. And one of his statements to his many thousands of followers, and again, you have to understand Abiy Ahmed supports this individual. And this is the state apparatus doing very much like what occurred during the Rwandan Civil War. So I'm going to quote Daniel. As you know, after the fall of Satan, there was nothing like Satan that was created. Satan was the last of his kind, and they, Tigray, must also remain the last of their kind, Daniel said. There should be no land in this country which can sustain this kind of weed. The weed is the Tigrayan people. They should be erased and disappeared from the historical record. A person who wants to study them should find nothing about them. Maybe he can find about them by digging in the ground, he said to applause. And that's an example of why you are not probably going to see a political resolution to this conflict. It is that sort of rhetoric which is driving this conflict. And unfortunately for the Tigray region, you have a state apparatus that exists uh, both in the Amhara region and in the capital of Addis Ababa that apparently seeks the complete removal of a people from the historical record, and that's on record. In the United States, the State Department has condemned these statements, and unfortunately, you see Abiy Ahmed, the leader of a supposed state, agreeing with this individual and mirroring many of the statements that have been said by this individual, these radical statements. And that is why it is so difficult and challenging for any sort of political process to proceed. You cannot proceed with that sort of ideology that is looking to wipe a group of people off the planet. And that's important to remember when that question is asked, why isn't anyone talking? So think about that for a second. So back to the conflict and the rhetoric that is obviously driving this conflict. I talked about the nature of the conflict in terms of not just the rhetoric, but the aspects of the conventional nature and the unconventional nature. Now, we've seen this in a few other conflicts throughout history. Most recently, I would say the Civil War inside of Sri Lanka. Initially started out as an insurgency and then started to devolve into an actual conventional sort of conflict as well. And I would say the conflict that we are seeing in the Tigray region now transferring into the Amhara region is actually greater than the conflict that took place inside of the Sri Lankan Civil War. And remember, that went on for a very, very long time. So the assets and the ability to continue this conflict is very much there. The Tigray region now controls most of the Tigray region, so there's a very supportive population base to continue the conflict. And again, there is no choice but to continue the conflict based on the rhetoric I just talked to you about, that they're basically the victim of. And that is actually occurring. And then obviously you have the former state of Ethiopia with huge population bases in terms of both supporting and unsupporting groups that are taking part or not wanting to take part in the conflict. So obviously Amhara region, very, very large population base. And then obviously you have the Oromia region. Again, very large population base, but a significant portion of that population is actually against the government, and you see a insurgency war taking place inside, just outside of the capital of Addis Ababa. So again, that is the heavy industrial strength insurgency elements of the conflict, and then obviously farther north, you have more of a conventional war taking place in terms of the Tigrayan Defense Forces capturing and holding land. They now have a structure, a military structure that you would see in any other state in the world. They have a corps structure, a brigade structure, battalion structure, and they have leadership functions. They have generals, colonels, majors, lieutenants, captains, what have you. And so that aspect in terms of that component of the conventional sort of the conflict is omnipresent. But at the same time, we still see the Tigrayan Defense Forces operating in a very unconventional manner as well. So they do take and they do seize land. Obviously, we know that areas such as Sokoto, Lalibela, Weldia, Kobo, and other areas have been taken by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, but at the same time, we hear about these deep penetration raids that are occurring. And again, this is the aspect of the unconventional nature of the conflict, where the Tigrayan Defense Forces are utilizing their skill set in terms of what occurred in the past and how they are using those skill sets now to engage and defeat the forces of the Amhara region, the Ethiopian state, and then obviously the Eritrean military as well. But again, that's kind of where we sit right now. An incredibly unique conflict in respect to both. We are seeing major elements of conventional and at the same time unconventional, and that is part of the reason why I define the former state of Ethiopia as that, a former state. It is not what it once was. It is fragmented. It is broken up. There are external actors coming in and propping it up, and obviously that would be the Eritrean forces of the despotic regime of Isaias Afwerki. And we can confirm there are probably in excess of 20,000 Eritrean soldiers inside of the Amhara region and in Western Tigray, and that was done on the invitation by the leader of the former state of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed. Again, an external state actor, a non-democratic regime, and you, as a leader of a nation, has invited this external state actor into your country to do what we are seeing now. And again, unfortunate, but it's just part of this conflict that continues to evolve. And at some point, we could see further state actors also get into the conflict as well, which I am sure they are acting behind the scenes, both in support of the Ethiopian state, the former state of Ethiopia, and the Tigrayan forces as well. But that is the status quo, and that is the video. Have a great day, everybody.